All right. There's no data. How can that be? Maybe I need to just stop looking at this. All right. We can begin. For the zero people that's watching, tell Mary Ann, you can call her and tell her I know she's not watching. All right. So we are chapter 24. I don't think we got through 24 when, or did we? Moses was going up the mountain. We did do that, didn't we? Anybody remember? They sacrificed for the fellowship offering, and they were told, yeah, he told Aaron Nadab, and yeah, we looked at this because I remember we talked about how in verse 11, God did not harm them; they saw him and they ate and drank. This was a fellowship. I think that's as far as we got up. Um, so this whole this whole episode is to solidify the covenant with the people. So on several occasions, they've already said, we'll do everything that you said. All right. So they have verbally uh, committed to the covenant that God has offered. And they've said, well, we're going to do everything you say to do. And so this whole thing now that we're in is to justify it or to put it in place. Um, so the Lord said to Moses, come up to me on the mountain and stay there, so that I may give you the stone tablets which the law and the commandments I've written for their instruction. So God has given the Ten Commandments. We've already gone through that, and we've gone through all the ancillary laws that give support to it. But when we always think of the Ten Commandments, we think of Moses coming down the mountain with them, and that's the first time that they hear them. No. God takes Moses up the mountain and he says, now that you know these things, we're going to write them down. I'm going to write them down in stone. Okay. So we know, what do we still do today in regards to the permanence of this? We put people's names on headstones there for all time. A few years back, we went to where my mother is buried, and there's headstones up there that are from the 1840s. And when we got there, there was actually a history class from, I think it was from Southwest Junior College. And that was part of what they were doing. They were going around to these different, and they were taking etchings, and they were going back and they were going to do research on whoever they could trace in historical records. So writing in stone has carried over from this day to now. So he says, come up, I will give you the stone tablets with the law and the commandments I've written for their instruction. So Moses arose, and his assistant Joshua went up the mountain to God. He told the elders, wait here. Oh, went too far. Wait here for us until we return to you. So Aaron and Hur are here with you. Whoever has a dispute should go to them. So Aaron and Hur are in charge. When Moses went up the mountain, the cloud covered it. The glory of the Lord settled on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. And on the seventh day he called to Moses from the cloud. The appearance of the Lord's glory to the Israelites was like consuming fire on the mountaintop. So Moses entered the cloud as he went up the mountain, and he remained on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. So these two numbers that are here, the seventh day being the perfect day. So what's that communicating? That this is the time that God has allowed it, and it is the perfect time. So Moses waited, and he waited for the perfect time to approach God at his command. And then he walked into the glory of God that is described here as the same language as the burning bush, right? It was a consuming fire, but it wasn't consuming. So we have the same idea here. Moses is walking into the consuming fire, but we know he's not going to be consumed. So the presence of God is overwhelming. Fire is an overwhelming thing. If you get too close up, you can't take a breath. It's so hot you can't. I mean, I lost everything in a fire when I was 27 years old. It consumes everything. And to imagine that you can walk into it, okay, and be okay. So we see that with Moses' encounter with the burning bush. We see it here as he walks into the consuming fire that is the glory of God. And then later, much later, a thousand years later, we have the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they're thrown in a fire that is to consume them, but God is there with them, and it becomes the glory of God. They're there. They're able to remain in that fire untouched. So their faith in God literally transforms death into life for them. And we get the series of portrayals that God uses to let us understand that He is all powerful and all consuming, but He is also all compassionate and can set aside those terrifying aspects of who He is and allow us near to Him. So how do we know? How do we experience that most completely is in Christ? The terror of God. You know, everybody says the New Testament God's not the God of the Old Testament. Well, it is the same God. God does allow for people to approach. He just does it on His terms because He's God and He knows what's best for us. Ultimately, He sends His Son Jesus, and we're able to approach Him on His terms, which are perfectly laid out, just like this, you know. Um, so, uh, this battery business is driving me crazy. Anyway, I'm going to ignore it. Uh, okay, offerings to build the tabernacle. The Lord spoke to Moses, tell the Israelites to take an offering for me. You are to take my offering from everyone who is willing to give. This is the offering you are to receive from them. Gives a list: gold, silver, bronze, blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, fine linen, goat hair, ram skins dyed red, and fine leather, acacia wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and for the fragrant incenses, and onyx along with other gemstones for mounting on the ephod and the breastplate. They are to make a sanctuary for me, so that I may dwell among them. You must make it according to all that I show you, the pattern of the tabernacle as well as the pattern of all its furnishings. So we don't find all of those directions here, but we find in great detail in the other books. Um, they're to make an ark of acacia wood, 45 inches long, 27 inches wide, and 27 inches high. Not very big, okay? And what goes in here? That's what the Ten Commandments are going to go in. Yeah. So it kind of gives you an idea how big they were too. Overlay it with pure gold. Overlay it both inside and out. Also make a gold molding all around it. Cast 4 gold rings for it and place them on its 4 feet. 2 rings on one side and 2 rings on the other. Make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Insert the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark in order to carry the ark with them. So God's being very specific here. He's explaining every reason why. He explains for them the reasons why he is doing this. Um, the poles are to remain in the rings of the ark. They must not be removed from it. Put the tablets of the testimony that I will give you into the ark. Make a mercy seat of pure gold, 45 inches long and 27 inches wide. Make 2 cherubim of gold. Make them of hammered work on the 2 ends of the mercy seat. Make 1 cherub at one end and 1 cherub at the other. At its 2 ends, make the cherubim of one piece with the mercy seat. So what is this? Cherubim, all through the Bible, they stand in the presence of God. The mercy seat is what? We'll find out later. Got any ideas what that is? Well, no, it's where you would go for the mercy of God. All right? And the cherubims represented, all right, this presence of God in with the mercy seat. So we'll get into more of it later. Make 1 cherub at one end and 1 cherub at the other, At its two ends, make the cherubim of one piece with the mercy seat. The cherubim are to have wings spread out above, covering the mercy seat with their wings. So one on each side, and the wings would come over the top and touch, really. Um, and are to face each one another. The faces of the cherubim should be toward the mercy seat. Set the mercy seat on top of the ark and put the tablets of the testimony that I will give you into the ark. So it's the lid. I will meet with you there above the mercy seat, between the two cherubim that are over the ark of the testimony. I will speak with you from there, about all that I command you regarding the Israelites. So this mercy seat is what? Where God's going to come have a seat. All right, that's pretty cool, right? So he's describing in detail, you know, the chair that he wants Moses to build for him, so that when he comes down, settles into the tent, um, there he is. Now, does God sit in a chair? No. The presence of the cherubim say, this is where God is going to be. All right. So all of this, later God tells Solomon, beautiful temple, but I'm too big for this. I'll let my name be, take residence here. And so this is kind of the same thing. It is a way for Moses to focus and know that God is there. And when God would be there, what would it say? The cloud would settle in on the tent of meeting. Okay. And it says later that God and Moses would talk to each other like you would talk to a friend. So this whole environment is one of deep fellowship. And why is it a mercy seat? Moses doesn't have to worry about losing his life when he's in the presence of God. Why? Mercy. Okay? We don't have to worry about losing our life in the presence of God. Why? Because we have mercy. The mercy seat for us is Jesus.
I wonder if that's where they came. Are you familiar with the term catbird seat?
Yeah, but I don't know if that's where that came from.
So, I mean, I know it means enviable position, but I'm just wondering
Yeah.
if that's anything.
I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't think so. Yeah.
I'm gonna look later and see where it came.
All right, the table. You're to construct a table of acacia wood, 36 inches long, 18 inches wide, and 27 inches high. Overlay it with pure gold and make a gold molding all around it. Make a 3-inch frame all around it and make a gold molding for it all around its frame. Make 4 gold rings for it and attach the rings to the 4 corners of the 4 legs. The rings should be next to the frame as holders of the poles to carry the table. Make the poles of acacia wood. Overlay them with gold, and the table can be carried by them. You are also to make its plates and cups as well as its pitchers and bowls for pouring drink offerings. Make them out of pure gold. Put the bread of the presence on the table before me at all time. So remember, all of this is going to be done with an offering that's given to God. So he says, take the offering that's been given to me and do these things with it. God's setting up house. Okay. So think about that for a minute. We run by this and we're thinking, this is all wonderful. He's telling them exactly what to do. But God is setting up house. He wants a seat. He wants a table before him where that's fellowship bread. Okay. The bread of the presence, where he's going to be there. We're going to go into the lampstand here that's never supposed to go out. So God's setting up a place where he can meet Moses and Moses the people. You're to make a lampstand out of pure hammered gold. It is to be made of one piece, its base and shaft, its ornamental cups, and its bud and petals. 6 branches are to extend from its side, and 3 branches of the lampstand from one side, and 3 branches of the lampstand from the other side. 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with a bud and petals on one branch, and 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with a bud and a petal on the next branch. It is to be this way for the 6 branches that extend from the lampstand. There are to be 4 cups shaped like almond blossoms on the lampstand shaft along with its buds and petals. For the 6 branches that extend from the lampstand, a bud must be under the first pair of branches from it, a bud under the second pair of branches from it, and a bud under the third pair of branches from it. Their buds and their branches are to be of one piece. All of this is to be a single hammered piece of pure gold. It says, make it 7 lamps and set them up so that they illuminate the area in front of it. Its snuffers and fire pans must be of pure gold. The lampstand with all its utensils must be made from 75 pounds of pure gold. Be careful to make them according to the pattern that I have shown. You have been shown on the mountain. All right, so there's a lot of talk here about almond buds blooming, right? Um, any thinking as to why God is so eager to have blooming almond trees represented?
I don't
No.
know Aaron's staff.
Yeah, it buds later.
The,
Yeah, yeah, budded almonds, didn't it? Yeah, yeah. So what does all that represent? Okay, this is life. This is life that is before God. That this is generate life. It's life that comes from the bud. It's represented in the bud. It's represented in the blossom. What else is going to be in the blossom? It's a cup that's going to hold whatever the offering is, the drink offering that is there, and it's poured out as a means of fellowship with God. So life, fellowship, regenerate life, and fellowship. All of these things are represented here. Okay. Now, it's just not so that it looks pretty. Um, and it probably was pretty, 75 pounds of pure gold to make all of this. Yeah. Yeah. And later we find out that it's the Holy Spirit that's leading the craftsman to make all of this stuff. Okay. So that's right. That's right. So so that whole thing from the Spirit, the design, everything is speaking to the life of God that is settled in with his people. So he was going to say, you're going to be my people, I'm going to be your God. And people are going to know this by the life that we have together. And this is part of it. Makes sense? All right, the tabernacle. Read the whole thing. You are to construct the tabernacle itself with 10 curtains. You must make them of finely spun linen and blue, purple, and scarlet yarn with a design of cherubim worked into them. Each curtain should be 42 feet long, 6 feet wide. All the curtains are to have the same measurements. 5 of the curtains should be joined together, and the other 5 curtains joined together. Make loops of blue yarn on the edge of the last curtain in the first set, and do the same on the edge of the outermost curtain in the second set. Make 50 loops on the one curtain and make 50 loops on the edge of the curtain in the second set so that the loops line up together. Also make 50 gold clasps and join the curtains together with the clasps so that the tabernacle may be a single unit. Okay, so what has he done? He's taken the L-shaped pieces and they come together on this frame that he's going to tell them how to build. And they're clasped together with these fasteners so that it's seamless. You know, they loop together like that, like you would a hinge. Okay. Um, Verse 7. You, go ahead. Oh, you are to make curtains of goat hair for a tent over the tabernacle. Make 11 of these curtains. Each curtain should be 45 feet long and 6 feet wide. All 11 curtains are to have the same measurements. Join 5 of the curtains by themselves and the other 6 curtains by themselves. Then fold the 6th curtain double at the front of the tent. Make 50 loops on the edge of one curtain, then outermost the first set, and make 50 loops on the edge of the corresponding curtain of the second set. Make 50 bronze clasps. Put the clasps through the loops and join the tent together so that is a single unit. As for the flap that remains from the tent curtains, the leftover half curtain is to hang over the back of the tabernacle, which remains along the length of the tent curtains, half yard on one side and a half yard on the other side. Um, should hang over the sides of the tabernacle on either side to cover it. Make a covering for the tent from the ram skins dyed red. Okay, 10% remaining. I don't know what I'm going to do when it dies. I don't have any way of charging it either. When it dies, I got to have a Bible to read, so I'm making sure I got my Bible to read. Um, I got it on my phone, thank goodness. I just didn't want it to die and I'd be stuck. Everybody else will be stuck because I won't be able to. All right. Sorry about all this. I know it's a pain. It's a pain for me too. You're to make upright supports of acacia wood for the tabernacle. Each support is to be 15 feet long and 27 inches wide. So it goes through this whole thing. I don't want to read the whole thing. If I was really wanting to take a lot of time doing this, there are many people, many scholars who have gone through and have looked for meaning in all of these dimensions and all of those things, taken different uh, what am I trying to say, proportions and come up with all this different stuff. I don't buy into any of that. I think that God, what he demonstrates here is that um, the height and depth and breadth of where he's going to live is not very important to God because it can't contain him. We find that out with the whole deal with Solomon. What is God interested in? His glory. Well, obedience for sure. But everything that is being built is a reflection of his glory. So this happens. Okay, we're going to see the ephod and all that's made for the priest. It was made so that when light hit it, they shine. It projected light everywhere. It had metal, shiny metal all over it, and these jewels on the front. Okay, yeah. So the idea was that they were projecting the glory of God. Everything about that was for the glory of God. And of course, they Aaron fails as a priest, and Moses actually comes down the mountain with the glory of God. He doesn't have the ephod, but he's shining the glory of God in his face. So so all of this is a representation which allows for a continuation of the experience that they are having with God on the mountain, the consuming fire. And then when he's in his place where he's there to meet, it's the same experience. Okay? Consistency in what he and how he is revealing himself. The other thing that happens, and we've talked about this already, is that when God does something and he wants his people involved in it as well, he asks them to do something. And so what is God doing? He's settling in and bringing his glory to bear. And yeah, you might want to. It's plugged in. Sorry. We're just going to have to shut this down, guys. Um, End. And sorry, folks.